The title of the speech is 2 or 3, okay, maybe 4, keys to success, and achievement.
Toastmasters, honored guests. Success, what is it? Well, I looked it up on the interweb tubes, right? And I found some great quotes about what success is and how you get it. Winston Churchill said, for example, success is stumbling from failure to failure with no loss of enthusiasm. I like that one. Kind of wraps up a lot of things in one little quote. Persistence, believing in yourself, all that kind of stuff. W.C. Fields, on the other hand, said, success, well, if at first you don't succeed, try again. And then if you still don't succeed, quit. Because there's no sense in making a damn fool of yourself. So there's actually something to that too. Knowing when to quit, knowing when to pack it in, cut your losses, whatever. Kind of like what the great David St. Hubbins said in This is Spinal Tap. There's a fine line between clever and stupid. But one of my favorite quotes about success that I found was from Reba McEntire. Reba McEntire said, success requires 3 things: a wishbone, a backbone, and a funny bone. Okay, obviously, wishbone, you've got to have a goal to achieve. Backbone, you've got to have the guts to go out and do what it takes to achieve it. And we all know that the importance of the funny bone here in laughing matters.
Well, laughing really matters.
Thank you. So, to illustrate that point, I've just read a book about John Lennon. You may have heard of him. He had a little group called the Beatles back in the 60s. Great book. And found out that the Beatles obviously had a wishbone. They had a goal. They wanted to make it to the top, the very top. And they paid their dues. They did that. They spent a couple of years in the red light district of Hamburg playing brutal hours. And for several years, beyond that, playing as well. And they also found a great manager found them, Brian Epstein, who shopped their demo tapes around to every record company in London. They all turned him down. Some of them twice turned him down. But Epstein was very persistent, and he went after it, kept going, kept plugging away, ultimately got them a record deal with Eli Carlton and George Martin. Well, now this alone was not enough to propel them to be masters of the known universe that they became later that decade. George Martin, their new producer, decided, you know what, I don't think these guys have very much songwriting talent. What was that for?
Yeah.
But at any rate, he said, I'm going to have to find some songs for these guys to record. So they go in the recording studio, and Martin has found a song for them to record. Here's what I want you guys to do. And they're like, oh no, George, we don't want to play other people's songs anymore. We only want to play our own music. And, so George Martin says, well, you know what? If you can write songs as good as this one that I brought in, we'll do your songs. Meanwhile, if there's anything else you don't like, let me know. So George Harrison pipes up and says, well, for starters, I don't like your tie. So there's the funny bone, right? So they had the wishbone, they had it making it big. They had the backbone, they paid their dues, they had a manager who paid his dues, and a funny bone. Those guys were actually genuinely funny if you ever hear interviews with them. But I want to add something to the wishbone, backbone, funny bones formula for success. And you could call it a number of things. What I call it is thinking outside the box. Thinking outside of the normal way things are done. The Beatles certainly did that. When they did start writing great songs, they started writing songs that were far and away above and different from songs that other people were writing at the time. So, there were times during the 60s where 5 out of the top 10 songs at any given time might be by the Beatles. That's unheard of, before or since. So it's a fantastic achievement and a great success story. But I want to tell you another story from my own life about a person who I met who was thinking outside the box. Christy and I moved to Austin. We wanted to buy our own house. First time we ever bought a house. And so we looked all over town, we picked one out, and we went looking for financing for this house. So we go to the first mortgage broker, we punched our numbers into his little calculator, said, "Oh, sorry, Mr. and Mrs. James, you don't qualify." Next mortgage broker told us the same thing. We were half a dozen of these or so. We're starting to get discouraged. And Christy's going, "I don't think we're going to be able to do this." So I said, "No, wait, our finances make sense. We just need to find somebody who's actually able to look at it logically without the standard formula and say, I think I can make this work." So we found a guy who was had a reputation already, a young guy, had a reputation already for being a little bit outside the box. We went and sat and talked to him, showed him our situation, and he said, "Yeah, okay." He didn't pull out the calculator, do the standard calculation. He looked at it and said, "Yeah, that makes sense. Tell you what I'll do. I'm going to take your situation to the underwriters and see what they say." He said, "I can't promise anything. My crystal ball is neither round nor clear, but I think I can make this work." And we told him about all the other mortgage brokers we found, with the calculator and all. And he said, "Yeah, most places you go, it's going to be like, this is what we do, this is how we do it, and this is all we do." Right? So it's people not really thinking about your situation, but people just plugging you into a formula, seeing if it fits. 2 or 3 days later, he had us our financing. And that guy is, to this day, this was 1991, but to this day, he's a successful mortgage broker in Austin. He's got his own company now, and he's helped us refinance that same house 3 times since then. So I think that's a pretty good success story. But America, the United States of America, is full of great success stories of people who think outside the box. You've got the light bulb, the airplane, Henry Ford with the Model T and the assembly line that they devised to make it, affordable and cheap enough and good enough to make so that the common man could own a car. So that's great stuff. But you don't have to actually reinvent the wheel or invent a new product necessarily. You can take something that already exists and use it in a different way. Use it in a way that people have not used it before. My own grandfather, with his 3 brothers and their father, actually started the car rentals company in America, in the United States, in 1960. So, they were the first ones who actually bought a bunch of Model Ts and were renting them out to people. And that company kept that company going for 70 years. So, it's just a matter of taking an existing product and marketing it in a different way. And the quote from my grandfather was that, I'd like to take credit for starting the car and truck rental industry. He said, in fact, I think I will. So, I had another relative who was half-brother of my great-grandfather who started the first self-service grocery store. Before that, you had to walk up to the counter, tell the guy what you wanted, you'd go back and gather it all up, bring it up, and you pay for it. Well, Piggly Wiggly was the first grocery store that you could go in and pick the stuff off the shelf yourself.
Wow.
And that was, I guess, my great half-uncle or something like that. But America is just full of great stories of people innovating and not just inventing new products, but inventing different ways to use existing products. And as a matter of fact, the United States of America was founded as a result of thinking outside of the box. Before the United States of America, pretty much all countries had come into existence either from an accident of warfare or conquest or an accident of geography. The United States was founded on an idea, the idea of individual freedom and liberty, and that you could actually rise to whatever level your talents would take you. A assuming, of course, you're able to think outside the box, which a lot of people are able to think outside the box. So that's my time, and I hope I've inspired you to think for yourself.